Hi 7th graders, today we're going to take a look at 1.3, which is talking about subtracting integers. Some key ideas and definitions today. The first we have is going to be this subtracting integers rule, and what that means is that we are just, when we subtract an integer, so again, a whole number, positive or negative, also including 0, when we subtract an integer, it's the same as adding its opposite. So we can see that down here we have 3 minus 3 minus 4. What we did here, it's going to equal the same as 3, that starting number, and then all we did was we changed the subtraction sign to an addition sign, but we're adding the opposite of what we started with. So we started with subtracting 4. Well, now we're going to add the opposite of 4 is going to be negative 4. And those really equal the same thing. And so to show that, we have a number line here. We're going to start at 3. So here's 3 right here. If I'm thinking of doing this part of it, 3 minus 4, if I'm subtracting, I can't go this way because that would be like adding. So taking away 4, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be minus 4 right there. So that's going to give me to negative 1. Okay. Now, if I think about it on this hand, 3 plus a negative 4 over here. We'll do that one this way. Again, I'm going to start at 3. Oops, sorry, that one was a little off. I'm going to start at 3. Adding, typically if I'm adding a number, let's say adding 2, I would go I would go in this direction. So like adding 2 would get me here. Well, I'm adding, but that would be a positive number that I'm adding. So if I'm adding a negative number, I have to go the other way. So adding a negative 4, I'm going to go this way, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to get me right here. Again, that's because I added a negative 4. And that's going to get me a negative 1. In both cases, we're at negative 1. So it's going to be the same thing. When we subtract an integer, it's the same as adding the opposite. So rewrite 8 minus 10 as an addition problem and then solve. So we just learned that subtracting integers, or a subtraction problem right here that we have, this 8 minus 10, we can change that subtraction sign right here to an addition sign as long as we're adding the opposite of what we started with. So I'm going to keep, in order to do that, I'm going to keep the first number that I started with, 8, and then what's going to change is the subtraction sign here. So when I have a subtraction sign, it's the same as adding its opposite. So what's going to change here is, instead of a subtraction sign, I'm going to have a plus. And then what I want to find is the opposite of this number right here, 10. Well, the opposite of 10, again, is the same distance away from 0, just in the opposite direction. So it would be negative 10. And so I'm going to have negative 10 right here. And just put around parentheses just because it makes it a little bit more clear when it's next to an addition sign. So this would be changing it to an addition problem. Now I'm going to solve like the directions tell me. So I have 8 plus negative 10. And so in my head I'm thinking of those army guys again. If I draw army guys, I have 8 positives over here. Because remember, blue we represent as positive. Then I have red, because I have a negative amount, negative 10. So I'm doing negative 10 here. Okay, now I'm canceling. So I have a group of 4. They fight with those guys. This group of 4 fights with these guys. Now, all my positives are gone. I have 2 reds or 2 negatives left. So I have a negative 2 as my answer. And keep in mind, when I'm thinking about this, when I look back at the original problem, 8 minus 10, I'm taking away, or when I change it, I'm adding negative 10. I'm adding more negatives, so my answer should be negative. Keep that in mind. Okay, rewrite negative 3 minus a negative 6 as an addition problem and then solve. So again, I'm going to start with my original problem that's given to me. So negative 3 minus a negative 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change subtracting an integer. So subtracting this negative 6 is the same as adding its opposite. So I'm just going to change the subtraction sign to a plus or an addition sign. So I have negative 3 plus. Now I have to take the opposite of what is right. That second number, I have to take the opposite of this negative 6. So the opposite of negative 6 is going to be positive 6. So now I have this problem, negative 3 plus 6, and then I'm going to solve. So again, in my head, I'm thinking about Army guys. I have 3 negative, sorry, the 6 is a positive number, but it's written in red. Keep in mind when I'm drawing out numbers, I got to keep my two colors separate. So I have 3 negative guys, I have 6 positive guys, doing those in blue. Okay, now they can fight. These 3 cancel with these 3, and now I'm left over with 3 positives. So my answer is positive 3. Rewrite 2 minus negative 4 as an addition problem and then solve. So again, I'm going to start with my original problem, 2 minus negative 4. I'm going to change down below it. I'm going to change my subtracting sign to a plus sign, addition sign. So I have 2 plus, now I have to take the opposite of negative 4. So the opposite of negative 4, oops, is just going to be positive 4. I put that in parentheses in accident. And that now I can do without really doing Army guys. Positive 2 plus positive 4 is a simple 6. If you wanted to, you could have drawn out Army guys as well. And you would have seen that no one's really fighting, so they just join forces and there's 6 of them. Evaluate negative 11 minus 5 minus a negative 8. Okay, so in this case we have a little bit going on. Evaluate just means to solve. So negative 11 minus 5 minus a negative 8. So what we have going on is a couple of subtraction problems here. So we're actually going to do our changing the subtraction to addition and adding the opposite a couple of times. So I'm going to start from, as I'm going to start from left and then go down to the right. This negative 11 stays as is, and then I'm going to be changing the subtraction sign to an addition sign, adding the opposite of 5, which would be negative 5. Now I keep on going. Again, I have another subtraction sign with an integer, so I'm going to change this subtraction sign to a addition sign, and then taking the opposite of negative 8, which would be 8. Okay, so I did that twice basically in this same problem. Now I'm going to work again from left to right. So I'm going to do kind of this problem first. I have negative 11. I'm just going to draw those out. So I have 11 guys here. I'm adding negative 5. So as you can see, those kind of join. Oh, sorry, I have too many there. This one is an extra. Okay. So as you can see, there's nothing really from the opposite force, so those joined forces. And really, I have negative 16 together. And then I'm just going to keep on going with the rest of my problem plus positive 8. And so here, I can redraw my problems. I have negative 16 or 16, oops, 16 red guys, not blue guys. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Then I have 8 positive guys. Okay. And so I can see that this group of 4 cancels and fights those. This group of 4 fights these guys. So I'm left with 8 negative Army guys, or an answer of negative 8.